Okay, Sheikh, you can start when you're ready.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد وبعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى wabarakatuh. My dear respected brothers and sisters, welcome to another Friday reminder. Uh, Alhamdulillah, we are in another lockdown, a third lockdown. Unfortunately, the situation is not getting better, but Alhamdulillah, in all situations, hospitals are being overwhelmed. There are people who are dying. More and more people are contracting the coronavirus. And it seems that this new kind of strain is more, um, the virus is spreading more forcefully, if you like, and it's impacting more and more people than before. But alhamdulillah, we discussed before that in all situations, in all circumstances, the believer is, thankful, and believer is patient and looks at the situation he or she is in and shows gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What I want to quickly draw attention here today about, I mean, we discussed it before, but it's important, I think, we remind ourselves and discuss from a different angle, from a psychological angle, about, trusting authorities and trusting people who have the certain expertise. Um, when we, as Muslims, question everything, and those issues that we are not experts of, what that does psychologically has a psychological impact on the rest of the population, on the wider public. So if we in this call have a number of doctors who have specialized in a given area, now I, who has not specialized in this area, question, right? It's it's good to be inquisitive and question. It's not a problem. But when I go public and I question the authority and question, on on a very general level, in a very cynical level, right? That becomes problematic. The same way when people question generally and become cynical about all scholars, about the authority and whatnot, then that becomes a problem. Unfortunately, we live in an age of binaries. Right? We live in an age where, yes, there are certain binaries. There are certain things that there's black and white. There are certain things which are black and white. Yeah. Um, Actually, we don't. I mean, in certain respect, we live in an age of binaries, and other respects, we live in an age where everything goes. There's no such thing as black and white. Whereas the Muslim perspective is that there are some black and whites. There are certain things that we have to take clearly and literally, but there are also we have other issues. We have to take a nuanced approach, a more practical approach, right? So, and I think with the whole the coronavirus and trusting authority, trusting imams and scholars, trusting doctors, medical experts, right? With people who have social media influence and people who have a social media page, they go and they write. They look at different websites, they look at different articles that are written, and they begin to discuss it without having the background knowledge, without having the understanding, the requisite understanding that one should have in order for that person to even question those matters. So having an inquisitive mindset is needed, right? It's very much needed, right? Especially in an age where information is readily available. So being inquisitive, being challenging your ideas, challenging your mindset and thinking, and that's very fine, right? That's not a problem. But when you begin to, I'll give you an example, right? Now, there are books available on medicine or given area on medicine, for example. And I read a lot, alhamdulillah, right? I can read books and go to YouTube and attend a weekend seminar here and there and have some understanding of medicine, right? We were at school, college, we were taught science, right? Now, does that mean I probably can, through Sheikh Google and Mufti Wikipedia, right? Um, draft a paper on certain aspects of medicine, and it may be good because the information is there. But is that responsible for me to do? And then I go and organize a webinar on it, as I've done this research. Is that responsible for me to do? My opinion is that it's not responsible for me to do, right? It's not my field, it's not my area. Same way, Islamic knowledge is available, right? There are courses available, there are books available. You read it, right? Now and then I have not been trained in Islamic sciences properly. Now I read a lot of books and articles and YouTube videos and attend weekend courses. Now I write a fatwa. I start giving talks and I give tafsir of the Quran and tafsir of the hadith and whatnot. Now, that person may be able to do it and may not get anything wrong, but is that responsible? Is that ethical? In my opinion, I would say no. And the thing is, one of the problems that we have in this society, from the Islamic Muslim perspective, is that we have devalued the Islamic tradition so much that any Tom, Dick, and Harry can pick up a book or attend a course and become an expert on Islam. But if I were to do that from a medical perspective, and even though I may not say anything wrong, I'm just going to parrot what others say, right? But I do organize a webinar and stuff. People will not take me seriously, and rightly so, right? But I'm talking about from a psychological perspective, right? Why is it that when people when you have people who they have a PhD on, I don't know, another topic, but now they are imam and doctor, but they have no understand. They have very little understanding of fiqh and usul and aqidah and tafsir and hadith and whatnot. But they go to webinars and people take them seriously. It's that mindset. It's psychological mindset. We have devalued, is sacred knowledge to such an extent that it's become a problem that anyone can speak on behalf of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, our tradition is not the same as other traditions, right? Historically, in other traditions, certain other traditions, only a handful of people had access to their Quran and access to knowledge. But from the Islamic perspective, the first first command in the Quran is Iqra, and this is not to the scholars only. This is to everyone, right? This is to everyone. So our approach to knowledge is very different from other traditions, definitely. But there are also, we have to appreciate specialisms. We have to appreciate expertise, right? It's not my prerogative to, start giving fatwas on medicine or start giving fatwas on engineering, because although I may read a lot of books, attend courses here and there, but that's not my prerogative. That's not my area. Similarly, if I have not studied formally and properly in a long time, right, the Islamic sciences, I should not be in a position to even deliver a talk. And it's not about it doesn't matter if you give fatwa or not, right? I'm not talking about fatwas. It's even delivering and posing yourself in public as someone who's studied, ustad or sheikh or imam or whatnot, right? So why do we have one set of criteria for the secular sciences and one set of criteria for the? Yes, there are differences. There are always caveats, obviously, yeah. But generally, the reason why, and this is it may be a very small point or minor point, but I think it's holistically looking at it is very dangerous. It's about our mindset, the psychology, how we approach knowledge, how we approach tradition, in essence, how we approach Islam. Are we taking Islam seriously? And these things, I believe, right, when I see this, people are not taking Islam seriously, right? I mentioned this many times in my khutbahs before at the mosque that, when you go to a doctor, now people are questioning, even, the vaccine, people are questioning even doctors, right? But generally, unfortunately. But generally, like when you go to a doctor, you don't question the doctor, right? You don't question. You can ask. You don't question and challenge and you know and say, no, why are you prescribing this medicine? You say, Samia, I thought you because you accept the expertise of that doctor. But when a person who approaches a scholar who's studying and stuff, right? It's all about questioning. When I mean questioning, about challenging and making, seeing holes and whatnot, right? There's a fine line between, being inquisitive, obviously, and then challenging if I don't have experience in that. My point is that everyone can have a platform these days. You can open up a YouTube video, a YouTube channel. You can open up a TikTok and give fatwas on TikTok. Open up Facebook and Twitter and open up your website. Right? It's not very difficult these days, right? And behind the scenes, people who are not, experts, people who are not qualified, they're giving fatwas, or they're pretending to give fatwas, and they're placing themselves as authorities, right, among the non-specialists. It's very, in my opinion, it's very dangerous. That's why Imam Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah, one of the foremost students of Imam Ibn Taymiyyah, two great scholars of Islam, he wrote a book, a massive book, right? And he titled it إعلام الموقعين عن رب العالمين. إعلام الموقعين عن رب العالمين, right? The title translates as informing those who act as signatories on behalf of the Lord of the universe, Lord of the worlds. Meaning that, and this book is written for scholars, but he's even saying, be mindful, right? If you don't, he's even saying to scholars, if you don't have expertise on a given area, be quiet, right? Be quiet, don't talk about it, right? So primarily he's not writing this book for lay people, not non-specialists, right? He's writing this book for scholars, yeah, primarily, right? Because of the topics that he do in the book. But now we have people who, non-specialists talking about and giving fatwas and being mufassir and whatnot. So I think it's very, very dangerous. So we have to be responsible human beings. We have to be responsible Muslims, and we have to elevate our tradition through our statement, through our actions, what we do or not do. Elevate the tradition, because the tradition, when I say tradition by Islam, is sacred. Islam is definitely is more value than our own lives, right? My own self. So we have to regard Islam higher than our own selves, right? And unfortunately, as I said, they value more the secular sciences. I'm not saying they're bad, right? They value the secular sciences more than they value the Islamic tradition, right? And more than they value Islam. And this is very, 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 very problematic. And we have to keep on talking about this. We have to keep on raising awareness. We have to keep on reminding each other, because it's not a simple matter of, okay, this is we're talking about expertise. No, we're talking about the survival of Islam in our lives. Islam will continue. Yeah, Islam will continue no matter what, right? Islam will flourish no matter what, whether we whether we do something to contribute towards that or not. Islam will flourish. Right? Now we have to ask ourselves how we can benefit from the flourishing of Islam. Unfortunately, if we take this mentality, we will not be able to flourish. We will not be able to benefit. So to really summarize my points, and I want to kind of the floor, as it were, for comments and questions, inshallah. Number one is that read. We if we don't know something, we ask and we read, and we ask expertise. It's about adab. It's about adab. So when I talk about something in medicine, for example, or ask a question to a doctor, I would be inquisitive, right? Rather than saying you're wrong or you're challenging that. right? I don't have to agree with the doctor. I can go to another doctor and agree with him. No, the point is about adab, right? How do we, right? And now you have, different, groups and stuff. When you discuss with non-specialists, they begin to kind of question you, right? So the adab is not there. They're not being inquisitive, right? They're not being inquisitive. And this is, for me, is really, really important, right? And the way, the approach I take, brothers and sisters, is always like that. Alhamdulillah, I try to. I'm a human being. I'm flawed. I make mistakes, but I try to be aware and cognizant of the fact that if I don't have expertise on a given area, I'd be inquisitive. Yeah, because if you're inquisitive, it shows adab, and you learn more rather than challenging all the time in the areas that you are not experts in. You don't learn. You won't learn because you assume, you believe that you know everything, right? And that's it's a disease of many people that they take this approach. But when you are inquisitive, when you ask open-ended questions sometimes, right, then you learn more. You create that environment of empathy and also understanding, inshallah. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala join everyone like he has joined us today in paradise, inshallah. End here, and I want to, inshallah, get your comments and any questions that you may have, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. Just while we're perhaps waiting for questions, you made a good point about adab in questioning, but we're taught to sort of have a critical mind and to question the faith, and to actually not perhaps look for holes, but if you see the holes, then sort of pursue that. So where's the line between sort of questioning and adab?
A very, very good question. I think it's also contextual, right? It's also contextual, right? And the words that we use, right? And I think we have to look at our own self when we ask, when we discuss, what is our intention or is our purpose behind it, right? And no one else can know your intention apart from you, and that's where we have to be authentic and sincere to ourselves. So, but generally, basically, it's about the way we ask the questions, yeah, right? How we ask the question, when we ask the question, in what context we ask the question. It doesn't mean that we don't ask questions, right? It doesn't mean we don't ask questions, but if we ask the question in a challenging manner, right, where you don't have the expertise, that becomes problematic. Yeah, I mean, for example, I give you an example. Among scholars, we have various WhatsApp groups and email lists. We discuss, we challenge each other. Yeah, it's fine, right? But I'm on other groups where there are non-scholars also. I see some people, they actually they're speaking as if they're scholars, right? And I said, oh, why are you speaking as you are a scholar, you're an expert on this, right? But if I, for example, as an example, if I speak on an area they're experts on, you don't know, you even study. So it's that there's no parity in that sense. There's no parity in that sense. So I think it's about context, about the wording that we use, and obviously the mannerisms that we do under. I'm not sure if that makes sense.
Jazakallah khair. There's a hand up from Zul Hamza. Zul, if you'd like to unmute yourself and ask a question. That might have been an accidental hand up. Anyway, just while we're waiting, I'll make a couple of announcements if that's okay, Sheikh.
Yep, that's fine. Yep.
Just to let everyone know that tomorrow, 9th of January, between 8 and 9 p.m. in the evening, Sheikh Abdullah will be participating in Wikipedia, where it's a sort of community-based discussion where you can bring your questions and ask him anything you like, really. So that's tomorrow between 8 and 9 p.m. And also next Thursday, there's a Zoom webinar on the COVID vaccine, which Sheikh has just mentioned in his reminder. And that will be, again, a medical expert delivering the lecture, and then a Q&A afterwards. So do attend and look out for the email reminders about that. Okay, Sheikh, there's no questions from YouTube now. So if you would like to wrap up and close with a dua, inshallah.
May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide everyone. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us and all the human beings in the world from this coronavirus pandemic. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase our knowledge. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase our love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us, allow us to become beacons of light for humanity, for goodness and khair in this dunya. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase in our knowledge. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase in our taqwa. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase in our observance of the commandments of God Almighty. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase in our love for the sunnah of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive our loved ones. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive those who have passed away. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide them to the highest place in Jannah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make the graves from the graves of paradise. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enlighten and expand the graves. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make the hisab on the day of judgment, make all our hisab on the day of judgment easy. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala join us together in paradise next to Al-Habib sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Subhanaka rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun, wa salamun ala al-mursaleen, walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh, and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.